Blog Talk Radio.
He is the last of his kind. All that remains of a once powerful nation. Some think he is a myth. Some believe he is the chosen one, who will bring balance to a world at war. And some will stop at nothing to destroy him.
Welcome to Moorish Talk Live 100. I'm your host, Tarhaka Amaana El Bey, and tonight our special guest is Dr. Walter Williams. We will be dealing with truth and understanding in 2016 and beyond. Before we get on into the broadcast, I'm going to go into our commercials as usual, and I need you all to sit tight. Make sure you got paper and pencil. We're going to try to bring some stuff to the table, so make sure that you don't miss it. We'll be right back. Hold on a moment.
Listen up. It will be 2016 in spring, but before your new year begins, it's time to solve your debt problems. To be burdened down with debt is no way to start a new year in real time, in spring. Call me, Tarhaka, 904-303-9061 before 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's 904-303-9061 before 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Or go to my website at www.newdebtelimination.com. That's www.newdebtelimination.com. Start your new year off right. Peace. One more time. Our foreclosure killer package not only comes along with the necessary documents that you need, but also your very own personal coach to walk you through the process of saving your home. If you've been foreclosed on already, or if you've received documents stating that you'll be foreclosed on, or if you are already in the court fighting a foreclosure, contact Tarhaka Amaana El Bey, 904-303-9061. Also visit our website at www.newdebtelimination.com. Stop foreclosure on your property. Let's stop this unlawful practice. Contact me, 904-303-9061 before 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Peace. Everything in America operates under contract. We have been a victim of everybody else's contracts instead of forming our own and enforcing them. You have a right to travel without someone else's contracts. You have a right to own your own corporate fiction. You also have a right to peace of mind. The police job is to protect corporate interests and not you. You don't have to take my word for it. Look it up for yourself. Call me, Tarhaka, 904-303-9061 before 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's 904-303-9061 before 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Go to www.newdebtelimination.com. That's www.newdebtelimination.com.
Okay, Morris, we're back. Now, this morning at 11 a.m., our special guest on broadcast that we had this morning was Professor James Small. And we have converted that over into a video. It's now officially up on YouTube. You can listen to that there. You can also go to my wall on Facebook, Google+, LinkedIn, Twitter. It's all there. And, of course, we do the same thing with the broadcast that we'll be dealing with here this evening between me and Walter Williams. So we will be coming in the future, and we will be doing physical videos so that you can actually see us. We're setting up a studio. We're trying to get that done as soon as possible. We got a little technical issue here. As soon as we get that resolved, we will install the equipment, and we'll have that up and ready to go. Okay? So make sure you stay tuned for that. On the 10th, which is next Wednesday night at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we'll have Brother Irritated Genie. He'll be back with us on this broadcast. And on the 21st of this month, Sister Shahrazad Ali will be here in person in Jacksonville, Florida. So if you are down here in Jacksonville, Florida, right around the 21st, you can get a chance to meet her in person. She's the author of The Black Man's Guide to Understanding the Black Woman, of course, the Black Woman's Guide to Understanding the Black Man. So make sure that you stay tuned for that. Make sure you catch that down here in Jacksonville, Florida. We will have other guests coming in as the days move forward into February, because what we're trying to do is we're trying to get as much good positive information out that you can use now. And that's the main thrust of what we're trying to do here now. So make sure that you stay tuned. All right? All right. Now, one other thing that I want to mention to you, the phone lines will be on. So the number to call into the broadcast is 310-982-4184. And you press 1 on your phone. That'll give me an indication that you have something to say. Okay. So without further ado, I see my guest is in the queue. So we're going to go into the broadcast. Make sure you got pen and paper and pencil, and we're ready to go. Area code 773. You are on the air.
Good evening, Brother Tarhaka. This is Walter Williams.
Good evening, brother.
And I hope I find you this evening in good health and prosperity. And I want to thank you very much for inviting me back on your program. It is my pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Well, I'm glad you are here, and I am in good health. Now, we're working on the prosperity, but
okay,
but
well.
I thank you. I thank you for being here. And what I do now is I want to draw attention to the books that you have written, and for those people who are new, who will be new, listening to this for the first time, because once we do this broadcast, it's not enough just to do it. What we do is we turn it into a video and put it up there on YouTube so that new people are able to listen to the broadcast. So for the new people, could you tell us about your books and how people can get them?
Okay, I am the author of 2 books. One, The Historical Origin of Christianity. The thesis of that book is saying that there's never been a man that ever walked the earth in human form of any race, creed, or color by the name of Jesus Christ, never walked this earth as a human being. And that book has been out for 23 years now, and it's selling all over America, in the UK, and in the Caribbean, and in all other English-speaking countries throughout the world. And my second book has been out for 13 years, and that's been The Historical Origin of Islam. The thesis of that book is saying that there's never been a man that ever walked the earth in human form of any race, creed, or color by the name of a Prophet Muhammad of Islamic tradition. So that book is also selling all over the world, and the places where I just mentioned that the Christianity book is selling. So you can buy that book, go to your local African bookstore, and ask for both of those books, and that store should be able to get the books for you, or they have them in stock, or they can order them for you. The second way to get it is to go online to Amazon, and they will mail the books to you, or go into your Barnes & Noble's bookstore, and they will have the book. Or there's a store right here in Chicago where I live. It's called the Underground Bookstore, and they can order the book and get the book for you, and they will mail it out to you and ship it out just like Amazon does. And their phone number is area code 773 768 8869 768-8869, and that's the Underground Bookstore. And that's how you can obtain both of my books.
Okay. Well, let me ask you something. Now, since you wrote the book, The Historical Origin of Christianity, at any time has anybody ever attempted to challenge you about that and try to come up with something to say that the information you contain in your book is incorrect? Has that ever occurred?
Well, I'll put it like this. When I first came out, this was something new and very bold coming from an individual who is in the African community, such as myself. I came out in 1993. That's when the book first came out, 23 years ago. And quite naturally, I was going to be challenged on that, and I realized that. So I equipped myself, embraced myself with the best knowledge that I could find and muster up to defend myself. Yes, I was attacked by ministers. I was attacked by the secular community in America. So as I grew in knowledge, I don't have that type of attack anymore. Okay, they seem to be afraid to call in and challenge me on that. Okay, so that is not happening and hasn't happened in the last 10 or more years. You see, so that argument has been put to rest, I hope, unless someone, for the very first time hearing me, an attempt to challenge me on whatever I'm saying. And the first thing I asked an individual, have you read my book? Now, if you haven't read my book, don't call up challenging me. Read the book, and if you have any questions, and find any place in the book that you can challenge, fine. Go to the page in the book that you have questions about, or you want to challenge it, what's been said in the book, then you can do so. But read the book first, and then if you have a problem, come back, like I said before, and challenge me. Now, I have a $5,000 award, Brother Tarhaka, to give to anybody of any race, creed, or color, including the Pope, that can repudiate me and history. When me and history is saying that there's never been a man that ever walked the earth in human form of any race, creed, or color by the name of Jesus Christ. There's never been a man of any race, creed, or color by the name of Prophet Muhammad of Islamic tradition. There's never been men such as Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Sarah, Gideon, Esau, David, Joshua, and Solomon, etc., etc. And then I go on to say that 99 9/10 of every character named in the Bible never walked the earth as a human being. Now, if you can use the discipline of history, don't use no biblical references or Quranic references. I did not use any biblical references, nor did I use any Quranic references when I wrote my two books. So therefore, I use strictly the discipline of history, of human history. So if an individual can use the discipline of human history and put down on paper why, how, and where a character, a biblical character by the name of a Jesus Christ walked this earth as a human being, I will give you $5,000. That goes for every other biblical character in the Bible and every Quranic character in the Quran. Now, if you can't do that yourself personally, if you know someone that you think can do that, then go and get that individual, and I will give you a $2,000 finder's fee. But my money has been in the bank for over 25 or more years. So I haven't found anybody to come up and meet that challenge. See, so things has been quieted down in that regard, whereby people, they don't call up like they used to challenge me, okay? And you can't use your emotions and your belief on what you think and what you feel and what you believe to make, and use your emotion to make what you think, believe, and feel right. You can't do that, okay? It's got to be, the discipline of history has got to be used in order for you to get this $5,000 award. So that's where I stand with that, Brother Tarhaka.
Okay. Well, I think that's straight up and that's fair. And in my opinion, you've been on my broadcast, and this thing goes all over the world. So if with anybody out there that had anything that could dispute the information that you brought to the table, I'm pretty sure by now they would have come forward and put that down to dispute that. I've done an investigation myself, and I've come to the same conclusion. I don't see any evidence of any man walking the face of the earth by the name of Jesus Christ. I can't see it. Number one, it's an English term to me. So, okay. So, but anyway, I think that's fair. But now, let me ask you, Brother Williams.
Yes.
During your studies, when you were writing this material and doing the research, did you run into like stumbling blocks and stuff? How easy was it to bring forth this information? Because I know it was painstaking, and you took your time and you wrote out the details and investigated everything. But how painstaking was it for you to put that together?
Well, I had to do almost 20 years of research to make sure I had all the historical information that I wanted to put in this particular book, The Historical Origin of Christianity. That's my first book. And I knew that I had to be historically correct in doing that. Now, once I got everything written down and in manuscript form, typed up, edited, etc., I had to find someone to, let's say, put it into a book format for me. And I was told by one female person whom I was friends with at that time that she could do it. If she couldn't do it, she said, I have a friend of mine that can do it. So what she did was took my manuscript and gave it to her friend because she didn't have the time to really go through with the editing. And after I edited, they're supposed to come back and re-edit it and put it and outline it for print in book form so we can get it camera ready. So I can take it to the printers, and all they have to do is take a picture of each page and then put the cover on it and go from there. So about 2 weeks passed after she gave this manuscript to her friend. She came back to me and said her friend couldn't do it. I said, why? She said that she couldn't do it because she was a Christian. And what I'm putting in this book is against her Christian principles. So she couldn't work on the book. I said, okay, fine. So anyway, I found another young lady who said that she could do it. She took the manuscript. She kept it for 2 weeks. And she gave me back the manuscript. But everything was changed. I said, wait, hold on. This is not the manuscript I gave you to edit and get it camera ready for me to have printed. She said, well, no, maybe that's true, but that's not how Christianity came about. That's not true what you're saying about Christianity. I said, well, wait, I'm paying you to put down and edit and make this book camera ready for me to print. I didn't ask you to do all these other things. That's your opinion. Okay, you have your opinion about whatever you want to have your opinion about, but I'm paying you to do this for me. Well, she said, no, I can't do that because that's not right what you got in the book. Okay, so I took the book back, my manuscript back. Okay. She done screwed it all up, so I had to go back and put it back into the original form that I gave her. Then I found a Muslim who had a local Chicago newspaper, and she took the book and the manuscript, and she called herself to edit the book and get it typed up for camera-ready book form. Mm-hmm. She kept it for a couple of weeks, and she brought it back to me with a bill. Mm-hmm. She says, I looked at it, I said, this is not what I told you and gave you to write or to type up for me and edit for me. She says, no, that's what you're saying is that's not true. I said, hold it. Never mind. I'm paying you to do a job for me. Mm-hmm. But she wouldn't release my manuscript back to me unless I paid her the fee that I promised to pay her. So I paid her fee and got my manuscript back. Mm. Okay? Then I found another young lady who worked at AT&T. Okay. She was an editor of documents and paperwork that other AT&T employees wanted to send out as correspondence throughout the AT&T system, but before they go out, they had to be edited. So that was her job. So she took it, and she was an atheist. I said, wow, I found somebody that will be neutral on what I have written down. So she gave it back to me and said, well, I really can't do this, Brother Williams, because I don't know anything about the subject, what you're saying in this book. I said, you don't have to do that. Just put down and fix the book and make it camera ready from what you can see from my manuscript. That's all I ask you, and I'll pay you to do that. She said, well, I can't do that. And she said, I have a friend that can do that. So her friend took the book, and she began to work on the book. And her friend was a very skillful typist and editor and things like that. And then I met my present wife at that time, who was an AT&T employee. She's retired now. Okay. And she helped me and the other young lady to really get that book camera ready to be printed. And once I got it away from the other woman, I paid her, and then my wife, my present wife, took over the task of getting this book edited and camera ready to be printed. Plus, I gave my wife that I have now an assignment on researching the historical origin of the letter J. And she took her time, almost a year, and she came up with all the research that she found on the historical origin of the letter J. And that in my book, the Historical Origin of Christianity, the 9th chapter. That chapter was written by my wife that I have now. So I had a challenge and a hard time getting the book out, but finally, Brother Tarhaka, I got the book out, and it was published in 1993, and it's been out there ever since. So that's the story on how I got my first book, Historical Origin of Christianity, out. And my second book, The Historical Origin of Islam, came out in the year 2003. By that time, I was married. And my wife took over the task of editing, typing, and setting this book up into camera-ready form to be printed. And I gave her another assignment to do and write in this book. She wrote, "What happened to the Church of Hagia Sophia?" That was her assignment. So it took, again, another year or so for her to do this research, and it's in my book, Historical Origin of Islam. So that's a short overview, or either a long overview, however you want to put it, of how these two books got out into the world today.
Okay. Now, we have a caller with his hand raised. I'm going to open up the line at area code 334. Let's see what questions they have. Area code 334, you on the air.
Hey, good evening to everybody, and good evening to your guest and to you, the host, and to all the listeners.
Good evening to you, sir.
Yeah. Okay, listen, I just tuned in a little while ago, but I can understand and listen to what you're saying, and I understand you all might want to bash Christianity or Islam or Muslims or whatever, but let me say something. Those people that you dealt with, who you gave a project to get, as you say, camera ready, which I have no idea what that is because I do books all the time for lots of people. But the thing is, if they held it for 2 weeks, matter of fact, if they held it for more than 2 days and didn't give you a copy of what they've done so far, like maybe the first 10 pages or the first chapter, the first 10 chapters, depending on how long the book is, then you were dealing with the wrong people from the beginning.
I understand that. You're right.
Right, but the thing is, just because they say they were a Christian, just because they say they were an atheist, just because they say they were a Muslim, just because they say they were this or that, doesn't mean they were telling the truth about what they say they were.
Well,
and I run across a lot of people. I run across a lot of people who will bash a name because of a person who claims that name, but when you look at that person, they ain't even nothing about that name. And if you had brought your manuscript to me, I wouldn't have asked you to put it in my hands. I would have taught you in about 5 minutes how to do it yourself over your own computer, where you could have spoken to it and write it out for you, or you can take what you have typed up. I forget the name of it. It's called Bridge. It's called Auto Bridge, where you can put a typed document into a scanner and scan it, and it'll turn it from a photograph to a text document. And so I'm finding, I'm looking at what you're saying, and I just got to tell you, some of the people you were dealing with, they were lying to you from the beginning. Text Bridge, that's what it's called right there. It's called Text Bridge, and that's been around since, I say, in the late 80s and the early 90s.
Well, you see, what you're talking to a novice. I don't know anything about computers.
Okay, well, that's, yeah, and I understand that, but you know, I'm a person, and now my name's Dennis C. Latham. I'm down there over in the chat room, and what I do is I'm a type of person, I go into all areas of life, and I come with one agenda and one motive.
Where are you calling from, Dennis?
I'm calling from Millbrook, Alabama.
Okay, great. Okay, wonderful.
Right, but let me say this. This is what I do. Any area I can go in, I only go for one agenda and one motive, and that's to share, show, shed, speak, proving solutions and putting them into action. And I don't deal with the complaining, crying, and whining. But when it comes to, I'm not saying you were, but some of the people that you say you gave your manuscript to, I know it might have been back in the 90s, but you know what? I'd like to know their name. I call them out, and I put them on blast because they had no right to get any of your material and hold it for 2 weeks and then come back to you later and say, I can't do this because I'm this and I'm that, you know.
Well, you know, Dennis, I can understand what you're saying, but that's water over the bridge and under the dam. So I'm moving forward. I've been moving forward for the last 23 years since my first book came out, and I don't have to go through that anymore because my wife takes care of every need. Or is my editing, my printing, and everything, getting my book camera ready to be printed. So we're working on our third book. It's called Dispelling Myths of Ancient Egypt. So we are going to bring that book out in the very early near future. So I don't have to worry about that anymore. So anyway, I certainly appreciate your call that you made at this very moment, and I certainly appreciate your expertise in knowing about how to produce a book. That's great. Thank you so much.
Yeah, but it's not only that. The only problem I had with it was that you were like kind of saying like this person couldn't do it because they say they were a Christian. This person said they couldn't do it because of this. I'm just saying excuses. I'm just not about that. But on the reality, I do deal with what is called Christianity, and I do deal with the thing they call Jesus. But although his original name from the earliest time I could gather was Yahasha, but a lot of people say Yahuwah. But with my own research and study, you know, I don't see a reason to throw out the whole Bible because of the word Jesus. Because I have a television network with over 33 channels, and I did it without asking for a dime, without begging for any donations. I did it on my own income, which was very small, and I'm the type of person, I'm out there on the front lines, the back lines, the middle, to prove to people what you can do without having to beg folks. Just like most of us sit back and say some of these rock stars or celebrities or basketball players or football players who are rich or celebrities or whatever should pump up some money and give us our own education channel, our own history channel, our own news channel, you know, where we got something 24 hours, 7 days a week, our own missing children's channel, all of this type of stuff. And you know what? I turned around and gave them that for free, 33 channels of everything they wanted. And the same ones who complained and cried and whined about what they wanted were the first ones to try to stab me in the back and hate me and bash me and slander me because I gave them what they wanted after working 4 years on it. And guess what? I found out most of the people who complain, cry, and whine are full of crap. But the only people that are really serious are those who can bring a proven solution to the table and then show that they have taken that proven solution, put it into action, and prove that it worked. And I've got hundreds of me doing it myself. But that's what I look for. And when I call radio stations like this, and so that's what I look for.
Let me ask you something, Dennis. Let me ask you something. You did say your name was Dennis, right?
That's correct.
Okay. Dennis, have you read Dr. Williams' book, The Historical Origins of Christianity?
I have not read that book.
Okay.
I'm straight up. I have not read the book, but I'm going by the conversation because, you know, one thing, I'm going to say this real quick. This type of Christianity that was taught over here in America is not what is really Christianity because, see, when we get off of man's definition of Christianity, man's definition of love, man's definition of religion, man's definition of perfect, we can be something big and great. But we have to get off of the European definition because you know that English is a butchered language with butchered definitions.
Dennis, can I ask you a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
What is your definition of Christianity?
Okay, the true definition of Christianity, if it is a word, would be...
This is coming from you now. I ask you your definition.
It would be a person who loves the Creator, the Most High God, with all of their heart and with all of their mind, with all of their soul, a person who follows his only begotten Son, and a person who is a receiver and a receptor right now and always of the Holy Ghost, which is
Dennis,
the Spirit of the Most High God.
Dennis, thank you so much for your call. We certainly appreciate you calling. Thanks.
Okay, well, let me say one last thing real quick. All of those slave owners who claim to be Christian, they were not Christian. George Washington wasn't a Christian. He wasn't saved. He didn't go to heaven, because it's impossible for a Christian, as people use the word, to have slaves and then force them to commit adultery and fornication for breeding purposes, and then to purposely separate them and all this type of stuff. When George Washington died, he didn't free his slaves. He turned them over to his wife. And he took that curse and gave it to his wife. And when she died, she didn't free him. She turned him over to more family members. So the whole thing is mixed up, because people got folks believing that George Washington was a Christian, the slave owners were a Christian. They were not. They brought a defiled version with their minds. But anyway.
Okay,
well,
thanks so much.
Dennis, what we're going to do here this evening, Dennis, what we're going to do this evening is we're going to give a record of the breakdown to determine whether or not Christianity is a benefit, exactly what it is, what God is. If we can clearly define that. Dr. Williams, could you give us a brief synopsis? Because we have Brother Dennis, he's here, he's listening. And could you give us a brief synopsis on the beginning and middle and end of this thing called Christianity and this Jesus business?
Well, Dennis still on?
Yes, he's still on. His mic is muted, but he's still on.
Well, I want Dennis to hang up and thank him for his call.
Yes,
thanks for your call,
his mic
Dennis.
is muted.
Hello?
He's gone. He's gone.
He's gone.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Brother Tarhaka, you asked me some things that you want me to do in explaining Christianity, the image, the progression of history, how Christianity as a religion came about, how the image that we know today as Jesus the Christ, then known as the Serapis, came to be the Christ, et cetera, right? Now, on September the 19th, on this same program, I gave the audience, the listening audience, a breakdown as to how Christianity, how the image of Christ came about, et cetera, et cetera. I gave it a historical progression.
Yes,
so therefore, we need to move on in our broadcast at this moment, and let's see if we can pick up some more callers with some new questions that I could use the information that I imparted on September the 19th on this particular show to the listening audience as to the progression and the origin of Christianity. So, what do you think about that, Brother Tarhaka?
I think that's much better, because we have actually, and all Dennis would have to do is go back. He can go right over there to YouTube and just type in Tarhaka and Dr. Walter Williams, and all the previous work that you've done in explaining it. He could get the entire breakdown on it from start to finish, including all information on the historical origins of Islam, where it came about, who was who, and according to the ancient records outside of biblical literature. And so that is, you're right. We've already been there, done that. And so I do think that we can move on. If anybody got any questions, they can simply dial 310-982-4184, 310-982-4184. If you have a question or comment, go ahead and press 1 on your phone. that'll give me an indication that you have something to say. Okay, we got let me see. We got a little information right here in the chat room, and I think this is coming from Dennis. He say he's full of crap. White Jesus is a lie and false, made up by racists. And then he goes on to say you're trying to use what man did to destroy and write off the Son of the Most High. Okay, so anyway, moving right along. In my opinion, and this is my personal opinion based on the actual research that I've done, I didn't do as extensive research as you do, but I have a book here. It's called The Introduction to African Civilization by John G. Jackson. And it clearly states in his book that it was the who fought against the abolitionists tooth and nail that were trying to free black people from slavery. It was the Christian church that fought against them to keep us from being enslaved. So I look at things from a common sense perspective. And I always ask the question, prior to Christianity coming to Africa and being forced on the Africans, what was it that we had and we believed in before we knew anything about Islam? We had to have something. And so after doing the research on that and coming to the conclusion on that, and this was done prior to me meeting you and reading your books and buying your books. So the question still remains, what was it that we had prior to Christianity? Because I'm looking at the diary of Christopher Columbus. He wrote that when he came to Africa, prior to any Christianity ever being on the continent, he wrote in his diary that never have I ever seen a people as beautiful as these. Everything they do with a smile. Even the lowest one of them is better than our highest aristocrat. They love their neighbors as their own selves. Now, if we were doing that, then, way back then, prior to us ever knowing anything about Christianity, now that we have Christianity and religion, why is it that now we have Christian brothers and sisters that won't even speak to one another? I have another caller with his hand raised. I'm going to open up the line. Area code 310. 310, you're on the air.
Hey, Brother Tarhaka. Peace, my brother.
Peace, brother.
All right, this is Brother Kevin there from California.
Hey, Kevin.
Yes, sir. And I had a comment for Dennis real quick to just put that all in check. There's a 10-minute video on YouTube, Horus versus Jesus. 10 minutes, my brother. Check that out first. So now we'll take you back to Egypt, to Kemet, on the hieroglyphics before any of this happened. And if you want to take it further than that, we got to go back look, we all stardust, okay? We from the supernova. We all part of this planet. So I just feel that all of this energy needs to be focused on empowerment for our communities and building up our communities, teaching our kids how to grow and teaching them the truth instead of the Council of Nicaea. That's another book you can go check out, Dennis. And, we can go from there. We wasting our time on all of this. We need to get it together, and it's war out here. Our brothers being killed every day. If it was an Asian getting killed, I bet you they go to the United Nations and it wouldn't be no more killing on that. So we need to get our stuff together. So that's all I'm saying.
Okay,
so
brother,
peace, my brother.
Peace to you.
All right now.
Okay. Dr. Williams, this is how I see it. we still have this excuse me. We still have this problem with believing and a feeling going on with us. Believing.
What was that statement, Brother Tarhaka?
Huh?
What was your statement? I didn't quite hear it all.
I say I still think that we have a lot of us have a problem with this believing in something instead of gathering all the facts and dealing with what we know for a fact. Now, I've looked for and turned over every stone I could possibly turn over, looking for the meaning of the Holy Ghost. Could you help me out? Where that comes from?
The Holy Ghost? You go back to the Council of Ephesus. The Council of Ephesus, I explained on September the 19th on your show, 2015, how they made Osiris one of the main gods of the ancient Egyptian African divine triad. Osiris, God the Father, Isis, the goddess mother, and Haru, the son, the S-U-N, the son of Osiris and Isis. I told you at the Council of Nicaea I that the Melkite Coptic Egyptians, our ancestors, who created this Serapis known today as this Jesus the Christ, how they inserted in the African ancient Egyptian divine triad, and they took the S-U-N out of that triad, which was Horus, the son of Osiris and Isis, and they inserted the S-O-N, this white image that we know today as Jesus the Christ, then known as Serapis. So therefore, you had two African deities having a white son, that being Osiris and Isis, the mother goddess. And then I took you into the Council of Ephesus, where the Melkite Coptic Egyptians called that council meeting in 431. When they called that council meeting in 431, a man by the name of Eutyches, who is known as the father of monophysitism. A monophysite is an individual who says and believes that Serapis had an Osiris-like spirit, but no human nature. In order for an individual to have a human nature, one has to be born through the body of a female. And in order to get a human nature for the Serapis, they went back into the ancient Egyptian divine triad, and he took Isis out of that triad, the goddess mother, another African figure. And they created a created creature called the Virgin Mary, and gave the created creature, the Virgin Mary, the title of Theotokos. The word Theotokos means the mother of God. God, who they were referring to, was Serapis, now known as Jesus the Christ. And they took both of those created creatures, the Virgin Mary, with her attributes of Isis, and they amalgamated the two created creatures together in order for the Serapis to have a mother and a human nature. And they also gave this Virgin Mary, like I mentioned, the title of Theotokos. The Nestorians, under Nestorius, said that he could not accept the Theotokos in the Virgin Mary. So anyway, the Melkite Coptic Egyptians amalgamated the two created creatures together in order for the Serapis created creature to have a human nature. Now, in the ancient Egyptian African divine triad, you had, like I mentioned, Osiris, who is God and the Father. Isis, who is the goddess mother, and Haru, which is a S-U-N of Osiris and Isis. Now, in that divine triad, 2 African deities has been taken out of that African deity or African triad, and 2 white images is now inserted into the African ancient Egyptian divine triad. So they erase Haru, the sun, they erase Isis, the goddess mother, and the only African standing there left was Osiris. Now, Osiris now ends up with a white sun because they amalgamated the 2 created creatures, the Virgin Mary with the created creature, Serapis, who is named and known today as Jesus the Christ. The Melkite Coptic Egyptians speaking Greek, after the amalgamation was done, they said, now this is the Christos. And in English, Christos means now this is the Christ. So now here you have the last standing God and Father in the African ancient Egyptian divine triad with a white sun, and that white sun has a white mother. That's very strange. So what they did, the Melkite Coptic Egyptians did, was to make Osiris invisible, okay? Because the Melkite Coptic Egyptians was doing this for and to appease the white race or the white man who had occupied Egypt and Northeast Africa, in Turkey and Syria. So, therefore, by them making him invisible, he became the Holy Ghost. That's where you get that Holy Ghost from. You see? So that would be my answer to you.
Okay, so this was concocted during that time period, and it all seems to make sense to me, because I'm trying to figure out how they said in the Bible that Mary had a husband named Joseph, but she didn't get pregnant from him. A ghost overshadowed her and got pregnant. She got pregnant, and then she had a son. But I'm looking at reality today, and I noticed that every man, every woman that is pregnant, there was no more ghosts. It's always a man involved in procreation. So I'm trying to figure out how all of a sudden this one individual got pregnant from a ghost, and from then on we don't have no more ghosts doing anything else.
You see, Brother Tarhaka, what I just explained to you just a moment ago, today's Christianity, which is being perpetrated on the whole entire world by the Roman Catholic Church, that's where it began. Because in the 15th century, when that seed of Christianity was moved out of Northeast Africa, out of the double-walled city of Constantinople, out of the Church of the Hagia Sophia, the world's first Christian church on earth, and when that seed was transferred in 1439 by John VIII, going into Florence, Italy, as a curia there, C-U-R-I-A means college, and relinquishing what is known in history as the donation of Constantine, so that seed could be moved out of Northeast Africa, out of the Hagia Sophia, out of Constantinople, into on the outskirts of Rome, over the catacombs. And once that was done, in 1439, 6 years later, they began to build the Vatican over the catacombs on the outskirts of Rome. Okay? And what they did, the Roman Catholic Church, or the Vatican, they unleashed a monster on the whole entire world. And that monster is known today as Jesus the Christ. This is what they did. Now, they can't tell you how actually Christianity began. That's how they erase everything I just explained to you, and what I explained on September the 19th, 2015 on your show, and what I just explained to you just a moment ago. They can't tell you about the African ancient Egyptian divine triad, Osiris, the god the father, Isis, the goddess mother, and Horus, the son, S-U-N. Okay? So now you have an invisible father for Christ. You see? So now, how did Christ get a human nature? The created creature, the Virgin Mary, was created and brought into the scene. Now, they can't bring a father in with a penis. They can't do that because the Father and God, who is supposed to be the Father and God of this Jesus the Christ, is an African. You see? So therefore, they had to make him invisible. So therefore, he became the Holy Ghost.
Oh.
You see? That's how that was done. To hide that historical progression of history that I just explained.
Well, let me ask you this now, Dr. Walter Williams. What references can we look at to come up with a Matthew, Mark, Luke, John outside of biblical literature?
Well, you have to start on the outside to get your historical information. I tell people all the time, do not step into a religion, because once you do, you will find everything that is pleasurable to the individual who steps into a religion by way of belief. Okay? If you want to know and learn anything about any subject, you got to find the origin of that subject. In this case, we're talking about religion. We're talking about the Bible, et cetera, et cetera. So now you have to, if you want to know about that Bible, you have to study the Bible from the outside. Where did it come from? Who created it? What year? What caused it to come about? Things like that. Then once you find all these questions, answers for you, then you begin to put together the puzzle as to the facts that is presented to you by way of research, and you will get at the truth. Okay? Now, one, I ask an individual, if they're going to speak about the Bible, I ask them, when was the first Bible ever printed on planet Earth?
Okay.
What country was it printed in? What city in that country? What alphabet was used to print that Bible? Whose material was used to formulate that Bible? Who formulated the Bible to be printed? And what was the orthodox name of it? Now, that's your first Bible. The second Bible has another history attached to it. Okay? So, 41 years after the first Bible, the Orthodox Bible, was printed, here come your second form of biblical literature. 41 years later, here comes Desiderius Erasmus in 1516, creating for the Roman Catholic Church. And the object of the Roman Catholic Church, the object of the Roman Catholic Church is Jesus the Christ. So he created in 1516 what is known as the Novum Instrumentum. In 1519, they changed the Novum Instrumentum into the Novum Testamentum. In 1535, they changed it from the Novum Testamentum into the New Testament. Okay? And that particular first-time Bible, which was propounded by Desiderius Erasmus, an ex-Roman Catholic priest, he brought out what is known in history as the Synoptic Gospels. of Mark, Matthew, and Luke. And they always tell you that John came later, which John did. And we're going to modulate to that historical event. Now, the three synoptic gospel is also called Q literature or QLA literature, which means that some scholars says that Matthew is the source of Luke and Mark. Some scholars says that Mark is the source of Matthew and Luke. And that is called Q literature or QLA literature. Now, Erasmus also created for the Roman Catholic Church. This is the first literature ever created on planet Earth for the Roman Catholic Church. Okay? And that was done in 1516. And Desiderius Erasmus also created 1 and 2 Peter, 1 and 2 Corinthians, Galatians, and the Epistle to the Romans. Those are his 9 manuscripts. Today, you have the New Testament that consists of 27 manuscripts. He wrote the first 9 of those 27. Now you have 18 other manuscripts left. Where did they come from? They were produced by apocryphal writers. The word apocryphal means books of unknown authorship. Or it was produced by apocryphal writers, AL, which means books of spurious writers. It's the same thing, unknown authorship and spurious writers that produce those 18 remaining books in the New Testament. See? So if an individual, Brother Tarhaka, want to get some more insight on what I'm talking about, I would have them to take their paper and pencil and write these names down. So I'll give you time to get your paper and pencil out. We'll pause just for a moment.
Okay. All right. Well, we will be right back. And that'll give everybody a chance to get their paper and pencil out. And when we come back, we'll be ready to go. Hold on.
If you really wanna be happy, dream was not too real. Inside I cried. To win your love, you know I tried. Like this side, that rain would fall. Keep rain drops falling on my baby. Like this side, that rain drops would fall. Come on, yeah. Oh. Like this side, that rain drops would fall. Let them fall,
Okay, check this out. The entire U.S. operates on contracts. Everything is about a contract. We have to learn how to create our own contracts and enforce them. Instead of always being a victim of somebody else's contracts they enforce, let's launch some of our own. Go to www.newdebtelimination.com. Contact me, Tarhaka Amaana El Bey, 904-303-9061. We don't have to continue to be a victim. We can do something about this thing, man. And once you learn the rules of the game and you learn how to formulate your own contract and how to enforce them, it's on and popping. Give me a call, 904-303-9061 before 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Go to newdebtelimination.com.
Okay, Dr. Williams, we are back.
Okay, everybody got their pencil and paper out. I want you to write down these names. You write down the Pfefferkorn-Reuchlin controversy. Pfefferkorn is spelled P-F-E-F-F-E-R-K-O-R-N /Reuchlin is spelled R-E-U-C-H-L-I-N. R-E-U-C-H-L-I-N controversy. And you can pull it up on your iPhone, and you will see that there was a controversy over the Old or the Hebrew Bible, or the world's first printed Bible that was ever produced on planet Earth. Mm-hmm. And we're talking about the first printed Bible was printed in 1475. Okay? Printed and created and formulated in Bologna, Italy, the city of Bologna in the country Italy. They used the Greek alphabet to formulate that Bible. And they used the material to formulate that Bible from a man by the name of Moses Maimon called Maimonides, who created that literature that is known as the first 5 books of Moses, not the Moses of religious biblical literature, but himself, Moses Maimon, called Maimonides. He created that structure of that Bible. In 1168, 12 years later, 1180, he finished it. But then there's another history attached to it, which we won't go into it at this moment. But let's focus on the information that I'm giving to you at this moment at hand. Johannes Reuchlin and 2 of his Italian peers, Marcello Ficino and Pico della Mirandola, all 3 of them collaborated on producing this Bible that is known back then as the Hebrew Bible. They collaborated on producing this particular Bible using the writings of Moses Maimon, called Maimonides. Now, when this was done in 1475, the Roman Catholic Church was just 30 years old, because the transfer, like I mentioned before, of the seat of Christianity came from John the 8th, going into Florence, Italy, as a courier there, and relinquishing what is known as the donation of Constantine for that seat to be transferred. 6 years later, Eugenius IV and Nicholas V, on the outskirts of Rome, dug up and used the burial grounds that is known as the catacombs to make way for the building of the Vatican and make way for the building of St. Peter's Church. Okay? That was in 1445. So 30 years later, here come the produced Orthodox Hebrew Bible that came out for the very first time. Now, the listening audience has to realize that in 1437, Johannes Gutenberg had invented a printing press with movable print. See? And in the 15th century, this was during the beginning height of the Renaissance era for Europe. See, the Europeans only have been literate on their own for 619 years. That's it, up to the year 2016. So with this printing press that was confiscated by the capitalist Johannes Fust, F-U-S-T, he loaned money to Johannes Gutenberg, and Johannes Gutenberg couldn't pay the high interest rate on that loan, so that printing press was confiscated. Thus, coming forth for the very first time was this Bible, the first printed Bible on planet Earth, came forth in 1475, 30 years after the Roman Catholic Church was established. Now, when that Bible came out, the Roman Catholic Church had no religious biblical literature for its object. The object of Christianity is Jesus the Christ. They had no literature for that. So Pope Leo X was infuriated because Johannes Ruslan had translated from Greek, from the Hebrew Bible, and he created a Bible especially for the Roman Catholic Church, which was a Latin Bible, written in Latin. And today, they hide that historical event by using the name of Jerome, that Jerome produced for the Roman Catholic Church the Latin Vulgate. That's historically incorrect. This is what happened. And when that Hebrew Bible was translated from Greek into Latin, and Ruslan gave that Bible to the Pope Leo X and told Pope Leo X, this is the Bible you should read in order for you to understand Christianity better. That infuriated him. Pope Leo X called for the destruction, the burning, and the confiscation of all Jewish literature. That's called, that was the cause of the controversy between Pfefferkorn and Ruslan. So if an individual get to their iPhones or to an encyclopedia and look up the Pfefferkorn-Ruslan controversy of 1510, 1508 and 1510, and that will explain to the reader the things I have just mentioned at this very moment. Okay? Now, let's go back and move forward into the King James Version. The King James Version came out in 1611, and that King James Version of the Bible was dedicated to King James, Who created that Bible? Francis Bacon and Lancelot Andrewes, Andrewes, Andrewes. He created those two collaborators in the creation of the King James Version along with other theologians of that time. And in the King James Version, they always told you, after the Synoptic Gospel came out by Erasmus, Mark, Matthew, and Luke, they always tell you that John came later. John did come later in the King James Version, which was the fourth gospel. In the fourth gospel of John, that's where you will find Jesus the Christ being a Jew, which is all historically incorrect, but it's out there in the public domain, and the theologians all over the world has been feeding the masses of people who has been indoctrinated into believing in these various religions in their early life, this disease and virus passed on to them by their parents, which is called Christianity, and other related religions such as Islam, Judaism, Black Hebrew Israelitism, Buddhism, Zoroastrianism, and so forth and so on. See, so that is a short overview about the Bible, Brother Tarhaka.
Okay. All right. Well, you did a fantastic job. We got another caller in the queue with his hand raised. I'm going over here to 334, last four digits, 4336. Area code 334. You on the line?
Can you all give me your definition of religion so I can prove that you're using the European definition?
This is
and
Dennis,
I told you from the beginning.
Hold on.
Religion.
Dennis, right? Dennis.
Go ahead, Brother Walter.
Are you Dennis?
Yeah, that was Dennis.
Dennis, I don't have time to argue with.
About what we.
I understand that. I understand that, Brother Tarhaka. I don't have time to argue with Dennis. I'm not going to. I refuse to argue with Dennis. Dennis take his belief to some fine Reverend C.T. Chicken Wing and argue with him. This is not the program, and I'm not the person. I'm not going to take my time, 41 years of research, historical information, to bring to our African community and argue with Dennis, who is a believer.
I don't understand it. You know, I
understand it, but I'm not going to argue with Dennis. I'm not the guy tonight, Dennis. You go someplace else with that. Thank you for your call.
Okay. But anyway, let's move on. I got kind of thrown off that minute. I'm not understanding what the guys he seem to be trying to make a belief in some type of religion, some kind of legitimacy. All religions are mind control, forms of mind control. There is no legitimate religion or something you believe in. You go by what you know and what you can prove that is a fact minus religion. We get past, if we can understand that, then we can forget about what difference does it make to me about our religion? And not making any sense to me. I know exactly what it is. It's a form of mind control. We need to define each and every part so we can settle the matter. If you say God, okay, well, give me all the data on it outside religious material. You say Jesus, or Joseph, or John. What's the ancient story on it outside religion and biblical literature and religion? So we can deal with the facts and get past all that and going on to start dealing with what we know for a fact. I mean, there's no debate. I mean, you're on the broadcast, you're giving us verifiable references outside, and you're giving us the story it's based on. I mean, common sense tells me that if we got Ten Commandments in the Bible, and then we got it that came into existence as early as the 16th century. But then almost 5,000 years ago, we got the 42 Confessions of Ma'at carved into the walls in ancient Egypt. I mean, there's no argument. There's no debate there. It was stolen. So what am I going to use that for any purpose? It doesn't make any sense to me. There's no argument. There's no debate.
But here's what one has to realize right off the bat, Brother Tarhaka, is this. No human on earth of any race, creed, or color walking this earth as a human being, and you have over 7 billion humans of different races and different colors walking this earth.
That's
no
correct.
human on earth coming out of their mother's womb and body attached to her umbilical cord, and that umbilical cord nourished that particular human being for 9 months in their mother's womb and body. The umbilical cord was cut by the doctor to separate the baby from the mother. This is no one can argue that. Okay? Now, when that human being produced from the act of a sexual intercourse between that child's mother and father, and after the father's sperm was released and it impregnated his mother or her mother's egg, that started the process for 9 months of incubation in his or her mother's womb and body. At the end of that process of 9 months of incubation, like I mentioned before, that individual human being, now a baby, was given life, fed through the umbilical cord, air, food, and water for 9 months until that human was able to come out as a full born human being, a baby. So therefore, all humans walking this earth, coming out of their mother's womb, was given life. That is their individual, divine, spiritual birthright. No human on earth, this is what you really have to understand, and this will end all the argument. No human on earth was born with a religion. Man created the religion for man, like you said, to control man, his mind and his actions. Carter G. Woodson said, if you can control a man's thinking, you do not have to worry about his actions. If he's been trained to go to the back door, upon arriving at the back, if he finds no back door there, he will make one. Another thing, Brother Tarhaka, one has to remember that every human walking this earth, coming out of their mother's womb, was given everything that they would need to spiritually sustain themselves for the rest of their life. And that was not a religion. That is what you're breathing at this very moment, air. Okay? That keeps all humans alive. All 7 billion or more humans walking this earth are kept together by way of AIR. Okay? So without that AIR, you could not survive or live. So start right there. Then you go into how, when, who produced and created these various religions. How, when, and who created this literature called the Bible for Christianity, who created Quranic literature called the Quran for the Muslim, who created Jewish literature for the Jews, etc., etc. You see?
Mm-hmm.
So, who created the Zen Veda literature for the Hindus, and so forth and so on. So, one has to start there. Once you understand that no human was born with a religion, the argument is over with. So what are we arguing about? The next thing you have to do is to go and find, if you want to continue your investigation on these various religions, start from the origin. Find the origin of these religions. Find the origin of biblical literature. Find the origin of the world's first Christian church. The world's first Christian church was built in Constantinople, Turkey. Constantinople, Turkey today is known as Istanbul, Turkey. The world's first Christian church is known in history as the Church of Hagia Sophia, the Church of Mary and Christ, commissioned to be built in 532 by Justinian and his wife Theodora, commissioning African architects to design that building and to build it. They finished it 5 years later in 537. If an individual wants to see a picture of the Hagia Sophia, it is on the front cover of my book, The Historical Origin of Islam. That is the picture of the Hagia Sophia, minus the minarets. The minarets was added in the 16th century, and that goes into another history. So we have to start there with that understanding. And like I mentioned earlier, you have to stay on the outside to study about these various religions. Stay on the outside to study about the Bible. The moment that you walk inside of these religions, everything is prepared for you. All you have to do is sit down and believe all this garbage and junk. It's like when you go to a restaurant. You don't have to cook. You sit down. They give you a menu, and you order your food. It's already, when it comes to your table, after you put in your order, it's already prepared for you. All you have to do is eat it.
Mm-hmm.
So that is the things that I want to bring out to you and the listening audience. And that cuts down all arguments. If an individual wants to understand the facts about the truth, facts are stronger than argument, more profound than reasoning, more dependable than opinions, silences dispute, supersedes predictions and facts, always in the argument. Unless you are talking to an individual who wants to argue but don't want to know the facts or hear the facts. And if they hear the facts, they wouldn't know it was a fact, because they've been believing all their life in a certain doctrine. Belief, Brother Tarhaka, is very, very dangerous, because belief incarcerates the individual's mind. It reduces it down to a very small, minute area. It's like when you are incarcerated in prison, they give you a prison cell that is so many feet long and so many feet wide. That's it. So therefore, when you embrace a religion, you take your mind and incarcerate your mind. And you also put your mind in bondage, because all religions, in order to practice these religions, these various religions, all religions have laws, rituals, customs, and ceremonies that an individual has to abide by in order to practice those religions. So this limits your thinking. Belief is very dangerous. No human on earth was born with a religion, because all humans was born free. They were free. Go back to ancient Egypt, our ancient Egyptian ancestors. If they practiced a religion or believed in a Bible, or believe in a dead white man on a cross, talking about this is my God and Savior, if they believed in that, they could never have built the greatest edifice ever built on planet Earth by man, and that is the Great Pyramid. The original height of the Great Pyramid is 490 stories feet high. Today is they lost 10 feet, so it's 480 feet. You have four sides to the pyramid. The base of the pyramid is 756 feet wide on each side. Now, that is awesome. That means that our ancestors had unlimited thinking. They built the Sphinx. The body of the Sphinx is one city block long, 10 stories high, with an African face carved in stone to let the whole world know who they are. Not were, but who they are. Africans who did this. They had an awesome mind because they took their mind and their spirituality and tapped into the universe. And the universe taught them how to build the Great Pyramid, taught them all forms of mathematics, taught them to be literate. They were the only literate people on planet Earth. In order to be literate, you have to have an alphabet. An alphabet makes any human literate. Okay? They was the first literate people on planet Earth because they created an alphabet. Okay? But the creation of the alphabet and the creation of mathematics, they were able to build the Great Pyramid and create the culture. And coming out of their culture came civilization for all of humanity. If an individual have seen the movie called Selma, you remember there was a scene in Selma where the individual female actress who was playing Amelia Boynton Robinson, who just passed away last November, who was part of the civil rights movement when they crossed that Pettus Bridge with Dr. Martin Luther King and the marches with John Lewis, et cetera, said to the actress that was playing Coretta Scott King. The actress who was playing Amelia Boynton Robinson told the actress who was playing Coretta Scott King, "We come from a great people, a people who brought civilization to the world." And the people that she was talking about in that movie are known in history as the African ancient Egyptians, our African ancestors, the ancient Egyptians. So there are things that you have to know that is in history that you won't know unless you try and research and find this information and look for the facts and look for the truth that facts will produce for you, Brother Tarhaka.
Well, you're absolutely correct about that. And I do believe that the young man. First of all, let me say this, Barry, because I'm on the No Delusions. I know for a fact that when people believe in something, they actually believe and look for things to take place in their life because of what they believe in. But what makes religion, and especially Christianity, so dangerous, gives the human mind a total falsification of consciousness. Now, I knew something was wrong way back when. The first time people of African descent started waking up to people saying that Jesus wasn't white. Then we ain't going to get rid of the religion. What we're going to do is we're going to start putting up pictures with a black Jesus. Instead of getting rid of all of it, just get rid of all of it, we didn't do that. We'll change that, because this is making too much sense about the color, but we ain't going to get rid of religion. The religion got to be right. That's the people who've been cut off from knowledge of self.
Correct.
Their mind is locked into a box. I have relatives who they just locked in the box. I don't mess with them no more. They know they dare not come to me about it because they know what's gonna happen. Truth gonna get the spewing and the evidence gonna get the coming out all over everywhere. So they don't mess with me about it. But they still locked into this thing. They don't understand that the mind is confined. The brain has been cut off from certain components. You mentioned the word science. Oh no, we can't use none of that. When you start putting facts on the table, well, I got to go home. It's time for me to leave now. Because you're about to mess with my religion. You finna mess with this tumor I got on the brain and it may hurt. So I'm not going to go along with you. I got to leave. So it's amazing, and I think that is one of the most dangerous things that we are faced with as a nation of people. There's no doubt in my mind about it. There's no doubt. I mean, if you're going to believe in something, why don't you believe in the facts? Why don't you present some evidence of the facts that everybody can identify with? And I did a broadcast and put a YouTube video up on consciousness and time, 1320 versus 1260. And I also did a thing on the number 9. And it laid it out on video so everybody can see it. This didn't have anything to do with what I believe. It had everything to do with what you can see and what you know for a fact. If I draw a circle, and that circle is 360 degrees, and I add 3 plus 6 plus 0, that equals 9. Now, that's a fact. It ain't got nothing to do with what you believe. And I did the whole video, and I'm trying to get my people to start thinking differently. Let's get out of the box. And there's a reason for being in the box, but it sure ain't about being in there with religion and what we believe. I think we need to concentrate more on what we know for a fact and what we can prove and what evidence we can put down on the table. In my opinion, I think we've been doing this too long. We've been doing it much too long. And I mean, you got. I remember one day, Dr. Williams, when I was working on this job, everybody knew that I was different. Whenever they see me come to work, they know not to come talking to me about no football. I don't want to talk to nobody about who went to bed with who. I don't care how fine so-and-so is on the first shift. Then don't talk to me about none of that. Now, if you're going to talk to me about something, talk to me about our culture, our story, or something, some business or something where we can do something different. And the time they saw me, I had a book in my hand, and the author of the book was somebody that looked like me. And I was sitting outside one day there in the office. She's a Caucasian woman. Her mother would come out in the evening to bring her lunch. And it just so happened that this particular day, I was on lunch break, and I was sitting out there, I had my books on the table, and I was reading Chancellor Williams, the Destruction of Black Civilization and stuff, and had all the other books. And as she got in the car, she's an older woman. Good morning. I said, good morning. She said, thank the Lord for Jesus. He showed, maybe. I said, oh, excuse me, ma'am. I said, I'm sorry, but there's no such person. And she said, oh, my God. And her daughter was standing in the door. He said, "Don't tell my mama nothing like that. What's wrong with you?" And there is such person as Jesus. I said, "Ma'am, I'm you know, I don't mean no harm." I said, "But you know, she tried to tell me something that I didn't go along with. You know, I don't mean no harm. I mean, if she wants to believe that there was a such person as Jesus Christ, there was a white guy that was supposed to be in charge of saving the world, it simply don't match the facts of the historical record. I don't want to talk to you anymore. Yeah, come on here, Mama." Mama, the white woman, she acted like she had a heart attack. Oh my God! Oh my God! Oh Lord! It was amazing.
Wow. Yeah, well, see here, Brother Tarhaka, your listening audience, I want them to understand something. What we're talking about, what you're talking about, and what I'm talking about, I want them to understand that I'm not trying to tell you not to be a Christian. If you want to be a Christian, you have the human right to be a Christian, okay? That's not what we are here talking about, trying to get you not to be a Christian. I didn't tell you to be a Christian, so I have no right to tell you not to be a Christian. That's up to you. And you have that perfect right if you want to be a Christian. Now, belief. The first individual in the world that a human being should believe in is themselves first. Not no religion, not no object of that religion, such as a Jesus Christ, or a Prophet Muhammad, a black Hebrew Israelite, or an Abraham and Isaac, Jacob and a Moses, or a Buddhist, or Buddha, or whatever the case might be. Okay? Believe in yourself. Have faith in your belief in yourself. Okay? Now, how does one get a religion? All religions are diseases and viruses. They're diseases and viruses passed on by the individual human's parents or the person who raised them in their early innocent age as a child. They pass that disease and virus to their child, and that child in its early innocent age cannot say, "Mom, Dad, I don't want to be a Christian. Mom, Dad, I don't want to be a Muslim. Mom, Dad, I don't want to be a black Hebrew Israelite. Mom, Dad, I don't want to be a Jew. Mom, Dad, I don't want to be a Buddhist," etc., etc., etc. So, here you are today, tied up in these various religions that you know nothing about. What you're doing is keeping all these religions glued together by belief, your human belief. That once you believe in these religions, such as Christianity, you give away all of your spiritual power in that object of what you believe in that's pertaining to religion that you believe in. You see, going back, no human on earth was born with a religion. Remember that. Very simple. Okay? Now, when an individual Christian go into a church to worship, that is just like going back on the slave plantation. The slave plantation has an owner of the slave plantation, and that is old Massa, the owner of the slave plantation. The head of all religions is Jesus the Christ, who is head of all religious Christian churches. Okay? Now, every slave plantation had an overseer named Boss Charlie, or whatever the name that the overseer may be named. He ran the slave plantation for old Massa. Now, who took Boss Charlie's place is the minister of the church. Every church has a minister in it. Okay? He oversees and keeps the slaves in order. Okay? And pacified and encouraged. Who are the slaves? The slaves are the people who come into the church, sitting in the pews of a church, believing in this dead white man on the cross. They come in there. They don't know anything about what they believe in. They just been taught to believe from early childhood. Okay? So therefore, the belief in this various religion, the belief in this image and icon that is known today as Jesus Christ, their minds incarcerated, keeps their minds in bondage, in slavery. Okay? Because your belief is doing that. It limits your thinking. All religions has side effects. The first side effect, just like when an individual gets sick and he goes to the doctor, and the doctor writes out a prescription for him to get some prescribed drugs to suppose to help eliminate his health problem. But but the prescription that the doctor gives that individual will give that individual side effects because it's man-made synthetic drugs. So therefore, the same thing religion is doing. It will give you side effects when you embrace any religion. The first side effect, that it causes confusion. Confusion, why are you confused? Because you know nothing about your own personal humanity. You don't know anything about it. You were taught away from that out of ignorance. And I'm not calling your parents or whoever raised you ignorant, but that is the reality of it. You were taught away from it, from who you are. In this place, you were given a religion. You were indoctrinated into a religion. So, by way of belief. So, therefore, you are confused. You don't even know who you are as a human being. The second side effect, it limits your thinking. All religions incarcerate your thinking because all religion is kept together by one's belief. And belief, like I mentioned before, is very dangerous. It limits your thinking. You cannot think because all religions have laws, rituals, customs, and ceremonies for an individual to abide by in order to practice that religion. Now, getting back to this Christian individual, the icon, the image, and the symbol of white supremacy is institutionalized in all Christian churches throughout America and throughout the world. That image on that cross is a dead white man that represents white supremacy, white superiority, and once we Africans go into these churches to worship that dead white man on the cross, you are supporting white superiority and you're supporting black African inferiority. You're making yourself inferior because you're bowing down to the white man. And you're telling this white man that, white man, you are my God and Savior. The question that I ask to all African Christians, do you think, Christians, that the white race will take their children and their family into a church and bow down and worship a big black African Jesus hanging on the cross and teach their children and their family that this black Jesus, image on the cross, is their God and Savior? Do you think they would do that, Christians? I'm going to give you the answer. Hell no, they will not do it. Then why are you going into these churches talking about this Jesus is the Christ, this white image on the cross is your Savior and your God? And some of you all is going to say, he's wrong because Jesus was black. You cannot make the traditional Jesus, which is known all over the world traditionally as a white man. So when you go into these churches, you're supporting white supremacy and white superiority, and you're supporting black African inferiority. The second question, Christians who are Africans in the African community, in America and throughout the world, I'm going to ask you this question. What is the name of your God, your African God, that looks like you? Because that dead white man on the cross don't look like you or any member of your family. So what is the name of your African God that looks like you? That's the question. See? So one has to realize in the African community, which you, Brother Tarhaka, and me, Brother Walter Williams, is trying to use the venue of this program that you have coming on every week as a venue to try to wake our African people living in the African community in America and throughout the world, to wake them up to the true facts about these various religions and the true facts about the Bible and the true facts about God. See? God is a man. If you don't believe that God is not a man, every time an individual uses the term God, they say he, his, or him. So that makes and reduce God down to a gender, a man. Okay? In the church, the reverend preaching from the Bible will tell his parishioners sitting out in the pews of the church. When you sit in the pews of a church, you give away all of your spiritual power. So therefore, we as an African people become powerless. He tells the parishioners out in the pews of a church that God created the heavens and the earth. That's not true. He also teaches parishioners that God created man in his own image. Now listen to that. God created man in his own image. That means that God is a man. Then he also tells the parishioners that God created the heavens and the earth. God cannot do that. God is part of creation. He is just one entity in creation. The question has to be asked, what created the stars, the sky, the moon, the planets, the sun, air, earth, water, vegetation, animals, and humanity? See, God and Goddess are male and female. They're only part of creation. They only make up a part of creation. So you cannot take the creation of the sky, the moon, the stars, the planet, the sun, air, earth, water, vegetation, animals, and humanity and say God did that, because God is part of creation, a man and a woman. The next question has to be asked. What created the first man and the first woman to appear on planet Earth? What caused them to come about? What caused their creation as a man and a female that we know today? I'll give you the answer. The answer is called the mystery of life. I'll give you the answer to what created the sky, the stars, the planets, the moon, the sun, air, earth, water, vegetation, animals, and humanity. I'll give you that answer of what created that. The answer to that, no human will ever know, no matter what race they belong to, how much education they have, how much money they have, or what station in life. You could never know the answer to that question. That question, too, is called the mystery of life. You will never know that. The third question I ask humans is this. When you go to a funeral and you look down in the casket of the deceased, the question has to be asked, when and where did the spirit of that deceased person, where did it go? No human can tell you that, because no human on earth died that you know of and came back and told you. So therefore, it is called the mystery of life. You will never, ever know that. The next question has to be asked is this: how did you humans, I'm talking to you, how did you humans, how did you get here on earth as a human being? Now, Brother Tarhaka, let's go back in your earliest memory in your mind that when you found yourself here on planet Earth, what age were you?
Well, I had to go back to kindergarten. I can see that, and I can go back to when I was with my grandmother. I was a little thing, but I was born with a fertile mind. And,
how old were you?
So I had to say I was 5.
So from 0 to 5, you had no conscious memory of Tarhaka Amaana El Bey. Is that correct?
No, none whatsoever.
And when you found yourself here on planet Earth at 5 years old, a human being, where on Earth, geographically, did you find yourself living?
I found myself living in right here in Jacksonville, Florida. And
okay. And you found yourself belonging to a certain race of people. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Now, you can multiply your personal individual experience to every race of people living on Earth. You got, like I mentioned before, there are 7 billion or more people of all races, creeds, and color living on Earth. The European found himself living in Europe. He didn't know how he got there as a European. The Chinese found himself in China as a Chinese. He don't know how he got into China as a Chinese. The Indian of India found himself living in India as an Indian. He don't know how he got there. The African found himself in the continent of Africa as an African. He don't know how he got there. The Mexicans found themselves in Mexico. The Puerto Ricans found themselves in Puerto Rico. The Filipinos found themselves in the Philippines, and so forth and so on, for all racial humans living on this earth. They found themselves there. They don't know how they got there. It's called the mystery of life. You will never, ever know how you got and came into this world as a human being. You will never know the month that your toes began to appear. You will never know the month or the hour where your ears began to appear. You will never know the month when your legs began to develop and your feet began to develop. You will never, ever know that, because you found yourself here at a certain conscious memory in your mind, and it goes for every human walking this earth of all races, creeds, and color. Brother Tarhaka.
Well, let me ask you something, Dr. Williams, because what happens and what I found that's been happening is religion in Christianity, especially, and I have to say that because I've spent more time investigating that than any other thing. What they do is attempt to go beyond the mysteries of life and give you an explanation of the mysteries. And I think that is extremely dangerous. And then we have to look at where did it come from? Who was it that gave us that? And if we look at the record of where it came from and the record of who gave it to us, then we should automatically be suspect. We should become suspicious.
That's the reason why, Brother Tarhaka, I wrote my 2 books, The Historical Origin of Christianity, The Historical Origin of Islam, giving and trying to give you the historical progression of how these religions came about. And this is the reason why you having me as a guest on your program to bring to the public, the African listeners or whoever else is listening, how these various religions came about and how the literature that is connected to these religions, how they came about. Okay? So, me, individual person who did the research, I used the discipline of history to bring that to the world. Okay? So, you are on the right track. Okay? And what they have done out here and put out here, and they use what is known as the science of metaphysics. Metaphysics is very dangerous. I heard you use that word just a moment ago, dangerous. Metaphysics is very dangerous because it does not give you the origin of anything. It does not give you a completion of anything. It keeps you going around and around and around a circle. That's just like if you go to a dog race. There's a rabbit, an iron rabbit, that this dog is chasing that he will never, ever catch up with because it's not intended for him to catch that iron rabbit. So metaphysics will do the same thing. Metaphysics cannot be used for human history because it has no completion. Metaphysics is an interpretation, okay, created by man, and each man can add his own interpretation to the same subject. So therefore, you don't have one fact. You have different interpretations by the use of metaphysics by different human beings putting their 2 cents in on the subject, no matter what that subject may be. Brother Tarhaka, that's what I have to say about that.
Okay. Well, you know, I think we all have different circumstances and situations and stuff as we grow up in our lives that we can think about and relate to, because during this conscious journey, there are certain things that stick in our minds that we never forget. And there are other things that people can come to you and say, well, you remember when on this particular day was such and such thing? You say, well, you know, I don't recall that. It's because you didn't. There was not enough consciousness to make that stick. But there are things that did stick, and those things you do remember. Because I've had people come to me and tell me, you remember when this, that, no, I don't remember that. I don't remember that because there was not enough consciousness to stick. But what is happening with religion is a deliberate of consciousness. I had when I was on my job, I had another situation where there was a sister on the job, and her and I were sitting down talking, and the Caucasians on the job, they knew that I told the truth no matter what. I don't care if you're sitting there with me. I don't care if you're the owner of the building. I'm going to tell the truth. From my ancient story perspective and hope that you got anything to say about it being wrong. But this particular day, me and her were sitting there, and I was talking to her, trying to get rid of religion. And the Caucasian seen me sitting there, talking to her about that, and this Caucasian come out and sit right side her on the other side of her and told her, like, no matter what he said, you believe in Jesus, God, you always believe in Jesus, God. And I'm on the other side, and I'm telling her, I said, well, first of all, I said, Susan, I said, you need to relax. I said, look to your right. I said, it was his ancestors that fed your babies to alligators. And we went back and forth, back and forth. This man here, he did everything he can to keep her enslaved. I'm over there trying to get her unstuck and take her out of slavery. And this went on for quite some time. You know, and I told her, I said, look, you see what he's doing? I said, he's doing everything he can to keep you enslaved. I said, but I'm here to tell you now, once you get rid of it, you will know who it was that enslaved your people, and then you will know what to do about it. And he really got down there. You know, ever since you was a child, your mama told you Jesus, and you know, you don't want to go to hell. And he was fighting desperately. Then he, after the sister said, look, I can't take this no more, she got up and went on in the building. He got up here, ringing right behind her, and went and told all the rest, or the engineers, all the rest of Caucasians, what I done. And they gathered all around the lunchroom. I come through them like a bullet. They spread it out. I walked straight through them.
Wow. Well, you see here, Brother Tarhaka, is this. These religions is kept being repeated to the believer by the minister, the reverend. He keeps encouraging our people in the African community to go to God. Religion, one of the definitions of religion is to bind back. You keep binding back, going back to that religion. So you keep repeating that going back and forth. You become like a robot, a machine, and you begin to indoctrinate that into your belief system. You begin to you take this dead white man on the cross, and you incubate that in your subconscious mind. So anytime that you want to bring this Jesus up, all you got to do is close your eyes, and the picture of this Jesus will come out of your subconscious mind. Okay? And it superimposes on you. And that's how you keep that individual indoctrinated. You indoctrinate that individual in a belief. So now, you, Brother Tarhaka, knew that something was wrong with that. See, if you don't know and feel that something is wrong out here, why are all these African people going into these churches, bowing down to a dead white man on the cross? Why are you doing that? And you stood back away from the crowd, and you began to think. See, think, think. And you began to analyze, and you began to say, oh, this is the problem. But the people who are going into these churches with their package, in their package is a dead white man on the cross called Jesus the Christ. In their package is this Bible. The Bible is a book that one has to believe in. And this God is in the package. Okay? This man called God is in that package. So therefore, you believe in this. So you keep binding back to this every week, every chance you get. It is etched in your subconscious mind. The reason why the story that you was telling earlier, that when the person said, do you remember such and such and such? You said, no, I don't remember that. Because you didn't put what he was talking about in your subconscious mind. You store in your subconscious mind what you want to keep. It's like a computer. You store in your computer the things that you want to keep and not to delete. And when you get ready for these things that you store in your computer, you hit a button and it pops up. See? Same thing with your subconscious mind will do the same thing. Now, where's your subconscious mind? Your subconscious mind is your abdomen, your stomach area, where your mother incubated you for 9 months. Okay? You have feelings there. You love there. You dislike there. You hate there, if you use that term. All these things are done and kept in your subconscious mind, the things that you want to keep in your life. So one has to remember, and one has to find out and learn something about your own personal humanity. You have to learn about your pineal gland. Your pineal gland is a sensor organ that sits in your middle of your brain. It serves as a receiver and a sender between you, the individual human, and your personal universe. The bottom of your pineal gland are your nostrils. What do you do with your nostrils? You intake air to keep that indwelling spirit that was given to you at the time of your birth alive and keep you in consciousness. And your pineal gland, like I mentioned, takes an individual into their own personal universe. Now, where and what is your personal universe? It's your mind. If I cut your head open, I can see your brains, but I cannot see your mind. Your mind is invisible air, spirit. That's in your mind. You think in your mind, your conscious mind. And you take in information in your conscious mind. And the information that you take in, the part that you want, or the parts that you want to keep from the intake of information, you store it in your subconscious mind. So when you need it, you can go down in your subconscious mind and pull it up. So like I told you about the function of the computer. See? So what can you do in your subconscious mind? What can you do in your conscious mind? What can you do in your own personal universe? You can create things in your own personal universe. We humans are literal creators. Everything that you see around you was once invisible, including you and I, Brother Tarhaka. We are now in physical human form. Everything that you see around you came out of the minds of a female or a male by way of them creating what you see around you, okay, including human beings, okay? Now, singularly, a man, singularly, a woman cannot create anything with life in it unless the two are sexually mated together, and from that sexual encounter comes procreation, comes Tarhaka Amaana El Bey, comes Walter Williams, and every listener that's out there. Okay? But the things that you see around you has no life in it also came singularly from the mind of a man, singularly from the mind of a female. So we cannot create anything with life in it unless we have a sexual encounter with a female, and the female has a sexual encounter with a male. So everything else around you that don't have life in it, doesn't have life in it, is created by man, has no life in it. So I want to bring that out, Brother Tarhaka.
You're absolutely correct. For the listening audience and those people who are new here, if you have a question, you can raise your hand at 310-982-4184. Press 1 on your phone. and that will give us an indication that you have something to say. And I will open up the lines so that you can ask your question. We have our special guest this evening is Dr. Walter Williams. He's regular on the broadcast, and he always brings very, very important information to our people, and that's important. What we have to discuss does not have anything to do with racism. It cannot be reviewed as racist. I'm a firm believer that we cannot get on with the business of loving anybody or any culture before we love our own selves. And if we going to do that, then the first thing that we're going to have to do is learn everything that we possibly can about ourselves and our own culture and our own ancient story, and then we can get on and study his story. And so that's the way I see it. And I don't want anybody to construe what we are saying here this evening to be viewed as some type of hate or racism. Facts are facts. If we got the facts on the table, then we have evidence. So it cannot be construed as racism. Now, I like what Dr. Claude Anderson said about the definition of racism. He stated that racism is a competitive relationship between two groups of people where one group has so much opposed to the other group that they can exploit gerrymander, Jim Crow, and all of this stuff against another group. The root word is race. And after careful examination and investigation, I feel like he's absolutely correct. So people who's been classified as Negro, colors, and black cannot possibly be racist in the United States. They can't. We don't have anything. What we do is we are victims of racism. A lot of people frown on the Honorable Louis Farrakhan and call him a racist. But he is not a racist. He is a victim of racism. And this thing is very, very serious, so it's important for us to understand instead of going into the church, what we need to be doing is on Sundays, if it's possible where you live at, and on Saturday, and Monday through Friday, we need to start going to the gun range and practicing. Take your Bible with you, and when you get to the gun range, put the Bible on the target and see if you can dot the I in the word Bible with a 30-06, and get these practices going on opposed to believing in stuff. We need to practice. You never know. You might have to go hunting and provide food for your family. But if you have no skill and you have no training, you can't do anything. Me personally, I'm not with the Bible and stuff. I'm not involved in all of that. I have more faith in Smith and Wesson than I have in the King James Version of a Bible. And so I have skill, so therefore I'm at peace. I'm confident. I don't jump because of loud noises or nothing. Somebody jump out the bushes, I politely put them back in the bushes and then go on about my business. So what religion does, in my opinion, is to breed fear. And fear is not good in anybody. But if you trade fear for skill based on the training and preparedness and skill that you have a different type of thinking. Totally different breed animal. When it comes to dogs, you got dogs that bark, 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 bark. You got dogs that bark and bite. But then you have dogs that never bark. These particular types of dogs don't bark. But you open that cage, and they're going to eat you up. So that's a dog that's confident. He doesn't go through a whole bunch of mess. You don't want no trouble. He's peaceful. He's relaxed and stuff. But you can't open the gate because he ain't going to do no barking. But I wanted to bring that to the table so that we can see there's an alternative. Because we run into the church every morning and giving a man our money that owns a Cadillac, and we putting all in the Chevrolet. Why don't we go to the gun range once or twice a month and practice and keep yourself sharp? You're looking at we're looking at the news, looking at the television. We got people running down and shooting your children down in the streets and all that, that's going on. And then we marching and big gatherings and all that kind of foolishness. I don't believe in none of that. Dr. Williams?
Yeah.
Shoot my child down in the street. I don't want to know but two things. Who did it and where he at? That's it. I'll do the rest. So when we unravel the garbage from the brain, the scales fall from your eyes. You will know what to do when something goes wrong with you.
Let me pick it back. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, I just want to piggyback. I'm sorry. I wanted to piggyback on what you said about the Minister Louis Farrakhan making a statement that we as a race of people have been practiced coming from the white race, racism, okay? But they reverse and project us as being racist when we talk about race, okay? That's just a tactic that the Europeans use to throw you off of your game, okay? So let me tell you about what I found, Brother Tarhaka, in Webster's Dictionary, 1957, Webster's Dictionary, about the color line. Now listen to this. Now this is the definition. I got this definition. I pass out these definitions coming from the Webster's Dictionary when I give my lectures. And this is what I found. I was thumbing through this particular Webster's Dictionary looking for the definition of a word. And I found and I ran across the color line. The color line in Webster's Dictionary, 1957 edition. It says a barrier of political, social, and economic restrictions imposed upon Negroes and other colored races. It went on to say, draw the color line and keep the color line. Now, how racist can you get? And how poignant can you get when they say, under the color line definition, I'm going to give it again, coming from Webster's Dictionary, 1957, it says a barrier of political, social, and economic restrictions imposed upon Negroes and other colored races. Draw the color line and keep it. They didn't say restricted upon Mexicans. It didn't say restricted upon Puerto Ricans. It says restricted upon Negroes and other colored races. And the other colored races statement, get the Mexicans, get the Puerto Ricans, get all the other races after the Negro. Now, how racist can you get? See?
And
so
where did you find that again?
Huh?
Where did you find that at so we can go over there and look at it?
In Webster's dictionary. See, it's not in all dictionaries. It's in this particular edition of 1957 Webster's dictionary that I have at my home. Okay? Mm-hmm. And you go and look at other dictionaries, you won't find the color line in there. Mm-hmm. Okay? It's a chance that you may find it, and it's a chance that most likely you won't find it. But I have it, and I have it printed out, and I pass them out at lectures when I give lectures sometimes. Mm-hmm. That's the color line. Now, no white person can argue when we talk about race. Don't bring that argument to me, because you are the creators of racism. You are the symbol and incubator of racism. You started the Jim Crow system against one race of people, us Africans born in the United States of America. You began the slave trade against one group of people, Africans in America. Okay? You lynch the African slave and lynch the African just because he was an African, because you could do it. You set up in your white supremacy court, known as the United States Supreme Court, and you created a document in 1857 coming from the mouth of the head of the Supreme Court, Supremacy Court Justice by the name of Roger Brooke Taney in 1857. He said that Negroes were not citizens of the United States of America, so therefore could not bring suit in federal court in the state of Missouri that was handed down in the Dred Scott decision in 1857. He went on to say further that Negroes had no rights that a white man had to respect. And that is the reason why we live in this country from the time of Christopher Columbus coming over here with the Moors and discovering the Americas for the Europeans, because the Americas were not lost. The indigenous native Indian was living over here as well as the Africans were living over here prior to Columbus fumbling his way over here, finding this hemisphere for the white race or for Europeans. He said that Roger Brooks Taney, head of the White Supremacy Supreme Court, said that Negroes had no rights that a white man had to respect. That goes back when Rosa Parks was asked to give up her seat on the bus in Montgomery, Alabama. She had, that white bus driver knew that she had no rights, that he had to respect, because the Supreme Court told him that. So these Negroes have no rights. We live in this country from the time of Christopher Columbus coming over here with the Moors, who were dispelled out of Spain under the orders of Ferdinand and Isabella, and enforced by the Spanish Inquisition, enforced by Thomas de Guatemala, who was head of the Spanish Inquisition, to do just that, and all the way up to the time that Africans was brought out of Africa and made slaves in this country, all the way up until they created a supposed constitution in 1787 in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, all the way up into 1965. We had no rights. We were living in this country without any rights. Any white man can come into our homes and take our children out, our wives out, our husbands out, and kill them or do whatever they want to do with them. And the law will not protect us. Because why? The Supremacy Court said we had no rights. Roger Brooks Taney said that in 1857, that a white man had to respect. That's the reason why Emmett Till, these white racists down in Money, Mississippi, went in and got that 12 or 13-year-old boy, Emmett Till, and took him out and killed him. Okay? Because they said that he looked at a white woman. They knew that he had no rights, that they had to respect. And the FBI knew who killed Emmett Till, and they went down there and interviewed these white people who killed him. And they did nothing about it. Why? Because we had no rights that a white man had to respect. When Bull Connor was putting dogs and water cannons on those marches during the Civil Rights Movement under the leadership of Dr. Martin Luther King, and being jailed, clubbed, and set upon by dogs, and so forth and so on. There was a telegram sent to John F. Kennedy and Robert Kennedy, who was Attorney General, to send troops into Alabama to defend and keep the marches from being set upon by Bull Connor that caused mayhem to a race of people. The telegram was sent back to the marchers, the civil rights marchers, and the civil rights movement led by Dr. Martin Luther King. The telegram said, we cannot send troops because there is no rights that has to be protected by the United States government. In other words, our people living in this country had no rights until a civil rights bill was passed in 1965. That's the only thing that's protecting us from vicious white men coming into our homes with rifles or whatever they want to come in with and taking our family out and killing them, and will nothing happen to them. Okay? So don't talk to me, white people, about Tarhaka, or any member of our race being racist when we talk about racism. And I can go on further than this, but I'll cut it off at this point, Brother Tarhaka.
Okay, Dr. Williams, we got a caller with his hands raised at area code 513. I'm going to open up the line and let him in. Area code 513. Come on.
Tim Hotep to Shabbat and the guest, Dr. Walter Williams. It was a pleasure listening to you two. I always get, so much when, I hear I teach in our elder Dr. Walter Williams. Dr. Walter Williams, I got both your books. I haven't started on the origin of Islam yet because the origin of Christianity is filled with so much information to study that I don't want to start filling my head with all this additional information until I have your book down packed. It could roll off my tongue with the different conference, what the agendas was, what the impact is, and how it affects us today. But I'm really looking forward to it. I always enjoy hearing you speak. I got a couple of questions.
Where are you calling from?
Cincinnati, Ohio.
Okay, thank you.
And my name is Jahi.
Jahi, Brother Jahi. Go ahead with your questions, Brother Jahi.
Okay, one of the questions is, because I'm hearing a lot of, in relations to our ancestors in Egypt, relation to this topic of homosexuality. One of the arguments that I heard, why would in the Confessions of Ma'at be, thou shalt not practice that if it didn't take place? My belief and some of my reading, I haven't found no evidence whatsoever. But looking at this overall in relation to out of the 42 Confessions of Ma'at, I was watching this debate where these Hebrews stated that why would they have men shouldn't be with men if it wasn't taking place? Why would they even come up with that law? And my belief is, from what I've been reading, I haven't found no evidence of no homosexuality by our ancestors. That's one of the questions.
Okay,
well, that,
go ahead. Before you get to your second question, are you through with your first question?
Yes.
Okay. Now, here's what you have to remember, Brother Jahar, is this. Homosexuals are not always man-made by an individual being preyed upon by a homosexual or abused by a homosexual to get that individual to conform to the practice of homosexuality. You got to remember this now. There are some sexuals are born that way. They came here and on earth in human form that way. Nature made them that way. See, nature does not always produce the same thing. You see, every human walking this earth have a different fingerprint, a different footprint. Okay? So therefore, you have to understand that nature produces homosexuals sometimes. Okay? And then you have the other form of how homosexuals are created. Sometimes it's in prisons, being incarcerated with other men. Sometimes it is a individual who is a homosexual trying to entice another human being who may not have been born a homosexual, may not even think about a homosexual, but he's following this homosexual. This homosexual is tricking him into the practice of homosexuality, and it becomes a habit to that individual who's been preyed upon. So I want you to understand those two factions. Okay? Now, getting back to our ancient ancestors in Egypt, etc., etc., they had different men who were the keeper of the women, who serviced women in their bathing and putting out their oils, their clothes, and so forth and so on. And they were called by a name that escapes me at this moment. But they were eunuchs. That's the name that escaped me. But they were eunuchs. And these eunuchs in the culture and the civilization of ancient Egypt were men who nature had bestowed upon them the practice of homosexuality. So it goes back to one's birth. See? Some people, not all now. You see, there are so many out of every thousands of humans that's on this earth, of all races, creeds, and color. Out of those thousands, you're going to get a homosexual by way of nature. And in ancient Egypt, they were called eunuchs. And they were the ones that they worked in the house and the households of well-to-do men and women. They serviced them. They kept their house clean. They kept their clothes clean. They serviced the women in the house. And the male of the house had no fear of the eunuch because the eunuch did not desire women. So he was hired to do that. So that would be my answer to you on your first question. Now, what is your second, Brother Gene?
Okay, the Moors, do they have a origin location other than Northwest Africa. Because sometimes I'm hearing the Moors go far as back as Egypt. And, you know, you can look up a lot of different tribes in Egypt, but it's hard to find, you know, what locale was the Moors.
Okay,
you know,
well, see, the first thing, Brother Tahiti, you got to understand this. The name Moor is a nickname given to a descendant of the ancient Egyptians. The ancient Egyptian and the Moor is one and the same. But the Moor, that name Moor, is used as a nickname to keep the world from putting the two together, the ancient Egyptian and the Moor, as being one and the same, both Africans coming from the same culture. You see? The idea is to destroy ancient Egypt because they do not want, the system that we live in does not want us as the descendants of the ancient Egyptians to find our way back to ancient Egypt and claim our ancestors, those Africans who brought forth civilization for the whole entire world. They don't want us to go back and claim that, because if we go back and claim that, then white supremacy will be over with. So that's number one. So the Moor and the ancient Egyptian is one and the same. The Moor lived in North Africa, along the countries of North Africa, Morocco and Mauritania. See, the African ancient Egyptian the African ancient Egyptian Commonwealth was created by our ancestors, the ancient Egyptians. In that ancient Egyptian Commonwealth came the Nile Valley. In the Nile Valley, you got Ethiopia or Abyssinia is in the Nile Valley, as well as the Nubians that is called, the Sudan was called Nubia during the time of antiquity. So the Nubians came out of there. And then you got ancient Egypt, the country of Egypt, where the Great Pyramid and the Sphinx and the government of this African ancient Egyptian Commonwealth, where it was located. Now, west of Egypt, you will find the country of Libya, Tunisia, Algeria, Morocco, and Mauritania. That extended the ancient Egyptian African Commonwealth. So those people who lived in those countries were all under the umbrella of the African ancient Egyptian Commonwealth. Okay? I named it that, see, by my research and study. So now, in 1051, the Spanish asked those Africans living in Morocco to come to Spain and bring and set up civilization over there. They asked permission from the Byzantine emperor to do just that. So the Africans who lived in Morocco and Mauritania crossed the Mediterranean in 1051, entered Spain, and brought literacy to Spain. Pagan, uncivilized, heathen Spain. They set up a school system to make the Spanish make them literate. The only way that an individual can be literate is that you have to know and have an alphabet. The alphabet makes you literate, because with that alphabet you can read, write, and spell. So they set up a school system there to bring literacy to pagan, uncivilized Spain in 1051. They also set up the Spanish a government over there in Spain for the Spaniards. They also set up and built cities over there, Granada, Toledo, Cadillac. etc., over there in Spain. So now you have Spain being brought a civilization, a second civilization. The first civilization was in Africa, in Egypt, by our ancestors, the ancient Egyptians. So they set up this civilization over there, and the government and schools, and built cities over there, laid out cities over there in Spain, and in those cities they had brick buildings that they built over there to function as a civilized place. That civilization was being established. Now, they were over there for 432 years. Okay? When the seat of Christianity was moved out of northeast Africa, out of Constantinople, the double-walled city of Constantinople, out of the Church of Hagia Sophia, the world's first Christian church, in 1439, John VIII went into Florence, Italy, at the Curia there. Curia means college, and he relinquished the donation of Constantine so that seat could be transferred out of Africa, northeast Africa, into Europe. 1439. 6 years later, Eugenius Fore and Nicholas V began to dig up those catacombs, those burial grounds where the Romans buried their dead on the outskirts of Rome. And they began to dig up the catacombs to make way for the building of the Vatican that you see over there today. So in 1445, they began to build St. Peter's Church, known as St. Peter's Basilica. Now, Spain, under Ferdinand and Isabella, embraced Catholicism, a Roman Catholicism, a Roman Catholicism, dealing with the Roman Catholic Church. So, under Ferdinand and Isabella, who created what is known as the Spanish Inquisition that I mentioned earlier, hiring a Spanish Inquisitor General by the name of Thomas D. Torquemada. And he was hired to get rid of the Moors out of Spain. They used them, and you know how white people are. After they use you, they get rid of you. You know, no good, any good to them, because they got what they want from you. Okay? So now, the Roman Catholic Church was in there too, because Thomas D. Torquemada became the Roman Inquisitor General for the Roman Catholic Church. See, when they say the Spanish Inquisition, that means that the Spanish government under Ferdinand and Isabella started that Inquisition. That same Inquisition was also started at the same time by the Roman Catholic Church to get rid of the Moors, and that is known as the Roman, that's the key word, the Roman Inquisition, which means the same thing. So the Moors began to go into Europe because this was at the height and the beginning of the European Renaissance era, you see. And they began to go in there and take their building skills over there and began to build certain buildings and places in Europe. The Spanish Inquisition ran them out into Mali, okay? And in Mali, they brought land and they began to build homes over there, these Moors did. And they brought their manuscripts, their books that they had used over in Spain to spread literacy to those heathen, uncivilized Spanish people. So now they're over in Mali, in their homes, they brought those books with them, okay? And all the other teaching literature that they had. And they set up schools in their homes. That is, by them setting up schools in their homes, that is called the University of Timbuktu. If you go looking for a physical building, that the universities are built today over in Mali, looking for the University of Timbuktu, you will never find it. It took me many, many years to understand, after looking for the University of Timbuktu, that I found out that the literature and the books that the Moors had over in Mali, that they was teaching out in their homes, those books are the University of Timbuktu. Okay? And then Ferdinand and Isabella hired a navigator who had a boat. He didn't know very much, but anyway, he was hired to take the Moors out of Spain. And the Moors helped him navigate that boat where they fumbled up on the land that's over here today, the Americas. Okay, 1492. And what did the Moors do while over here? They began to set up the third civilization by bringing literacy and building, the knowledge of building to this country. Benjamin Banneker was a Moor. He helped lay out Washington, D.C. He was also a clockmaker, among other things. The Moors built the President's Palace that you see today. The Moors built and helped build the White House that you see today. Okay? All that was done by the Moors.
They was the aider and the better to our destruction.
What was that again? What was that?
So they was the aider and the better to our destruction, the Moors. All this contribution that they gave the whites to advance their understanding turned against us. And what about the Dogons that's in Mali that claim?
Now I'm not. Listen, we end up. Let's finish up on what we don't jump on one subject until we finish.
Okay. All right.
I understand what you said.
Looking at that pattern of history, it's like Mayweather's daddy training Pacquiao to beat his son, and his son wins. But everybody give credit to Mayweather's father for training Pacquiao, you know what I mean? And Pacquiao beat Mayweather. But we want to honor Mayweather's father for his assistance to our enemy and say his father was great, but he assisted our enemy in destroying us. There's nothing great about that.
It's just, let me finish up what I'm saying.
Okay.
Now, you know what you just said. You already have that. But you don't know what I'm saying about the Moors. Now, you asked me about them. I'm trying to give you an overview history on that. So, listen to what I have to say, if you want to. And then take out what that you can learn and so forth and so on. Because you already know what you just said. Yes, I've said that earlier. The European will use you to do things to help them, and after they use you, they discard you. I already know that. I said that. So hold your point.
Right.
You see? So now, while over here, I was on a roll until you broke in and cut that knowledge off with something that you already know and with something that I already said. You see? So now, you go to Savannah, Georgia. In Savannah, Georgia, they have the world's first, oldest church built in America. It was built by the Moors. The proof of that, if you go on the second floor of that church in Savannah, Georgia, they have some pews that they don't use anymore. And those pews was built by those Moors who carved their name in Arabic on the side of those pews. Carved this up there. I took pictures of it. Okay, when I was there some years back. So the Moors, whoever, they are Africans. Now we're Africans, they still are Africans. And they got put into slavery if they lived in slave-holding states, okay? If you go back and see a movie called 12 Years of Slave, that brother in that movie lived in New York, a free man, with his wife and 2 children, until he had a meeting with 2 white men at a cafe, and they put drugs in his drink, and the next thing you know, he ended up on a slave plantation and stayed there for 12 years until he got out of it. You see? He was a Moor. Now, in 1619, when the Spanish and Portuguese slave traders went into Africa and brought human cargo as human beings out of Africa and brought them to this hemisphere in 1619, that's the traditional date, to make slaves out of them. Okay? In Spain now, the Moor is known as a black Moor or blacker Moor. That's a Spanish name that means Negro. You see, Negro and black is synonymous. Same thing. You got that? So now, here you have this Moor in Spain is called a Negro Moor or black Moor or blacker Moor. So now he's over here in this hemisphere. Now the Spanish and the Portuguese are bringing slaves out of Africa. Human beings, Africans, to be put into slavery over in this country in 1619. Now the African that was brought out of Africa and the Moors, they look alike because they were both Africans. Now, how do you get rid of the Moor? Erase him out of history over in this country. They took the enslaved African, and they took this Moor, this African Moor, and they put them all under one umbrella. And the Spanish said, now you are all Negroes. And the word Negro in Spanish means black. You see? So that's how they got rid of the Moors. And you don't see no traces of the Moors, but you do see the Moors because the Moors and the ancient Egyptians are one and the same. The ancient Egyptians and the Moors and the Coptic Egyptians are all one and the same. The Moors, the Coptic Egyptians, and the ancient Egyptians vanished, and the Negro appeared. Okay, what's your other question?
But it's too late because it's over. You come down to the broadcast, end of the broadcast, and so that we can't go no further, Dr. Williams. And
okay, thank you, Tarhaka, for having me as your guest. And I want to give the listening audience my email address. If you need to email me, you can email me at ancientegyptian@msn.com. Ancient, ANCIENT, Egyptian, EGYPTIAN @msn.com. If you email me, put your phone number in there, and I'll call you back, and we can further our conversation.
Well, I'm certainly glad you came on to the broadcast again, and we will be coming back because we got to do this again this month. And
okay.
So if you got some time, I'll holler at you, and we'll put it together and bring it back on because we got some more of this here to do.
Okay. Okay, Brother
right.
Tarhaka, and I certainly appreciate you having me on as your guest. It's my pleasure. Every time you ask me to be on your program, I really appreciate that and look forward to being with you on the date that we set for me to be on your program. Thank you so much. And I want to thank the listening audience for being such especially the last listener, for being so gracious as to saying that my scholarship helped him. You've made me very humble when you make those statements, and thank you again, Brother Tahini. And I want to thank you again, Brother Tarhaka, for having me.
All right, thank you. Well, we're going to go ahead and close on out, and I certainly appreciate it. And good night, Doctor.
Mayat Hotep.
Mayat Hotep. Good night, ladies and gentlemen. I've been your host, Tarhaka Amaana El Bey, and until next time, there will be no music. Good night. Peace all.